They say Ken Russell has gone too far this time. With him, he has taken, as so often in the past, a number of historical personages. They are among the dramatis personae of his newest film, The Devils. In advertisements that have accompanied the openings in the United States, the management has been at pains to make clear their position. These advertisements say, in part, it is likely to be hailed as a masterpiece by many. Others will find it visually shocking and deeply disturbing. But let Ken Russell himself speak for The Devils.
With my designer and my composer, I wanted to get a feeling of it happening, not now, but happening to a set of people who consider themselves modern. And if you go to a town, if I had gone to Loudoun is 400 years older than it was. It ain't going to look the same, whatever I do to it. So what I wanted to give a feeling of in the film was of a contemporary feeling, that because I'm sure to every person in every stage in history, their town has not been an old-fashioned town. Their town has been a modern town, and they are modern people. Put over a point of view about what Richelieu thinks about the Huguenots and what the king thinks about them. I have this very sort of cod shooting match where the king's on the bridge talking to Richelieu, who's trying to convince him why Loudoun should come down.
No! All the others if you like, Richelieu, if you can manage it. But not Loudoun. We once promised dear old Saint Marthe, the late lamented governor, that we would never touch one teeny-weeny stone of his precious city. You would surely not expect us to go back on our word.
No, Your Majesty.
Yes? Yes?
Oh, pretty little birdie. Fly away, fly
Blackbird, the Huguenot, and the fantasy of the king's desire to put every event that happened in the state, to Richelieu, to himself, into a fantastic thing in his own mind and not really accept the reality of it. It all combines in that one short scene. The film basically is about politics and the collision between the individual and the state and who survives. And sort of throughout history, it's always been the state that survived and the individual's gone under. But the ramifications and the vibrations and the impact that individual might have on the situation may far outweigh the triumphs of the state at that time. Richelieu wanted total control of France, and the only way to do that was to destroy the city walls so that they were more or less villages. And he had no opposition in doing this most of the time. He comes up to this town of Loudoun with his vast machines for this destruction. And suddenly, this priest, Grandier, gets up and says, "What authority have you got to destroy our city?"
Every time there's a so-called nationalist revival, it means one thing. Somebody is trying to seize control of the entire country. The significance of our walls is that we are self-governing. Yes. Richelieu hates this. He deceives the king.
And the film is a series of very curious, strange and macabre and unbelievable incidents on how Richelieu got rid of the one man who was stopping the city from being totally destroyed. Once the state had decided on this course of action, they went to the convent Sister Jeanne, and they subjugated her, first of all, to a terrible cross-questioning about Grandier, which she stood up to remarkably well, because she was intelligent enough to realize that she couldn't really incriminate an innocent man. How they broke Sister Jeanne down, and they did it in the name of Christ, as they did all these things, was with the enema. And so this poor Jeanne, actually, who had just done it out of spite, was used by these people into destroying this man, and all the evidence she gave, which is still available for people to see and was used at the trial, is totally ludicrous and laughable. But because it was notated and spoken as though it was the truth, even though it was double Dutch, this was taken as gospel, and this man was burned on the evidence of hysterical nuns. And of course, all this was being used by the state to gull the public into a sort of euphoric sense of enjoyment of something that was beside the point. That it was a cabaret, the trial of Grandier and the destruction of the city. I mean, it's a very simple thing. The point of the film is the sinner who becomes a saint.
Your house has been searched. Various manuscripts have been found. Among them, this pamphlet directed against His Eminence, Cardinal Richelieu. You have also roused the temper of the populace against His Eminence by denouncing him in a public place. Notebooks and letters of a more personal kind were also discovered. Treatise on celibacy in the priesthood was found. The man appears to have been in love when this was written.
And he suddenly found one marvelous girl in the town who was a sort of near-saint. She was just beautiful, and she was considerate. She helped nurse victims of the plague. She was absolutely selfless. He'd never met anyone like her, and he fell madly in love with her, genuinely. And he didn't want her on any other terms but marriage and a true wedding of spirits. And of course he couldn't do this, so then he began thinking, and he wrote a very marvelous treatise, which I've used partly, I couldn't use it all, it was too long, on why in Christ's own teaching, if one goes to that, which is what the film's really all about anyway, it is not forbidden for a priest to marry. He was a very logical man, besides being a romantic man, a total man. He was just a man.
For the love of Jesus Christ, if you wish to destroy me, then destroy me. Accuse me of exposing political chicanery and the evils of the state, and I would plead guilty. But what man can face the arraignments of the idiocy of youth? Old love letters and other pathetic objects stuffed in drawers and in the bottom of cupboards. Things kept for a day he would need to be reminded that he was once loved. To continue the evidence,
in the town, as a background to the whole thing going on, there was a plague, which hasn't been mentioned very often. We found this out. 25% of the population died. And so there was a terrible feeling of death in the air, and death not mattering. And people were totally indifferent to death in a very odd sort of way. There was no sense of suffering at all. It was just taken as the norm. So at his burning, the people behaved like a football crowd.
One, take 4.
background action.
Get up.
What is this place?
The convent of St. Ursula, a place you have defiled.
We'll do Murray while we're here, shall we? Murray's certainly. Just let me hang on. Ted, want more crowd? Hang on. Ted, more crowd, please. Up on those steps, those concrete, those bricks, pink bricks. You get another about 20 people up there. Okay? Still carrying on in the background, enjoying yourselves, all nudging and saying, isn't it, Cap? That soldier an inch to his left, please.
1460, yes?
That's right. Here we go. already met him in connection with an opera I'm going to do at Covent Garden. In fact, his opera. It's on a religious subject very similar to The Devil's, insofar it's about the corruption of religion, the corruption of a human being, and the forces of religion get to work on him. So when it came round to find a composer for this film, there was only one possible choice. Hear that one there?
Have a listen, Max. Hello, please.
He'd never done a film before, was always a bit wary of them. And as it happens, he turned out a fantastic score in his own terms, as though it was an opera he was writing for, or a vision of his own, or a ballet. The result is exactly what I wanted.
Sister Shauna, these good women you have wronged. I have done no such thing. I can only ask. God will forgive them.
I've never spoken to Maxwell Davis about his religious beliefs or non-beliefs or whatever, but in a sense I feel they're rather similar, or they cover some of the same ground as my own beliefs, disbeliefs, questionings and worryings and tormentings about religion. Great event, cup final, all singing, all dancing, the whole lot.
Confess! Confess! Beg forgiveness!
But you also had the darker side of things, was Father Barre and Canon Mignon, who had failed, even with their brutal smashing of his legs with these hammers, to get a confession out of Grandier. They still really had to get a confession.
Confess, confess!
Yeah, I get you. Yeah.
So then he'll go away like that. Ready? Go.
Confess, confess.
That's it. Perfect. See how he got it? The spit and the cross going at the same time, so he just naturally goes away.
Then one goes through the ritual of burning. He's put up there, and he naturally asked the thing that they would ask for in those days, which was the kiss of peace.
See how he flinches! See how he denies his Redeemer! Confess!
I have finished confessing. Give me the kiss of peace and let me die.
Kiss the devil! Kiss the evil fiend! The Antichrist, the strength of all iniquity, all evil! Never!
And the crowd, instead of shouting Arsenal, was saying kiss, 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 kiss. Now, Father Barre, who was the chief antagonist against, couldn't bring himself to administer the kiss.
Kiss him! Kiss him!
So he said to Canon Mignon, this weak character who really wanted to take over Grandier's job, kiss him, kiss him.
Kiss him!
Up he goes up the ladder, kisses him, hesitates for a second, does it, all the crowd shout,
Judas! Judas! Judas!
The traitor, for he presses on thee with perpetual flame. Who shall say at the end of time to the wicked, depart from me, cursed, into everlasting fire, which is prepared for the devil and his angels? For thee, impious one, and thy angels are prepared worms which never die. Thou art the chief of the curse of murder. Thou art the author of incest, the head of sacrilege, the master of the worst actions, the teacher of heretics.
Bring up the cello more.
quick, I promise you. Exercise the creatures.
Confess! Beg forgiveness! Forgive me for defending your city so badly!
Confess, confess.
See how he flinches! See how he denies his Redeemer! Confess!
I have finished confessing. Give me the kiss of peace and let me die.
Kiss the devil! Kiss the evil fiend! The Antichrist will sink of all iniquity, all evil! Never!
For the impious one and the angels is prepared the unquenchable fire. Because thou art the chief and accursed murder.
Kiss him, kiss him! Renounce your master!
I am about to meet the God who is my witness. And I have spoken the truth.
Confess! Confess! You have only a moment to live!
Only a moment. And then I go to that just and fearful judgment which you, too reverend Father, will soon be called.
May your body be consumed by eternal fire!
This was to promise me.
Sorry, priest! Sorry!
That clarinet has some fantastic screaming.
Confess! Confess!
Right? Did we get everything?
You're right with the big explosion. Right? So it comes out of it really naturally, like a flower.
Yes. Pretty similar.
So shall I send them for a
Yes, I think so.
tea break, and
Yeah.
then we set up for 13?
Right. Yes.
Thank you. Tea break.
Do you want to transfer that tape to you now, or would you rather do it later?
I think I'll just check.